Queremos empezar con todo. Vamos a comenzar con la presencia de un gran editor, un editor, no pocos han ganado el Yellow Kid. Este señor es muy importante editor en Europa y además representa a grandes artistas alrededor del mundo, como Herman, no sé si lo tienen, aquel que ha hecho Jeremías, Las Torres del Bosque Maurí, África. Bueno, ahí le han dispuesto algunos de los catálogos que él hace. Ahí pueden observar la cantidad de obras y artistas que él representa. Joe Cooper, Carlos Trillo, Eduardo Risso, bueno, infinidad de artistas. Pero esta persona ha tenido una vida muy especial. Esta persona logró superar la guerra de los Balcanes. En esta guerra, él perdió no solo su casa, sino una obra increíble de que él coleccionaba de originales. 140.000 originales perdidas en la guerra. Logró salir adelante nuevamente y con gran respeto por todos los artistas, porque a pesar de que había perdido parte de la obra de esos artistas, él surgió nuevamente y todo el mundo lo siguió acompañando. Quiere decir que cambia muy bien el dicho de que dicen que el editor bueno es el editor muerto. En este caso, este es un muy buen editor. Así que los voy a dejar con él, que charlen con Andrés, y va a hacer la traducción David, para que puedan escuchar la experiencia que tiene él para poder transmitirle a todos ustedes y a aquellos que quieran presentar carpetas para que él las vea. Bueno, los dejo con las manos.
Bueno, como les contaba recién Eduardo, estamos con Ervin Rustemagic, que es un muy conocido editor y agente de autores, ¿sí? Ahora vamos a preguntarle de qué se trata su trabajo, cómo se hace, etc. Y lo más importante de la presentación es lo que les contó recién Eduardo, para que lo ubiquen. Ervin trabaja en Eslovenia, ¿sí? Uno de los países que alguna vez fue Yugoslavia, ¿verdad? Y que después de la disolución de ese país se fueron creando como países más chicos, como Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia y Montenegro, se dividieron en Serbia por un lado, Montenegro por el otro, Croacia. Bueno, entonces en algún momento fue un solo país, de ahí viene nuestro invitado, y me gustaría empezar preguntándole cómo se decidió a ser editor, digamos, si alguna vez quiso ser guionista o dibujante y por X motivo no lo hizo.
Well, when I was 18, earlier than that, when I was 16, I loved comics. I was reading a lot of comics, also a lot of Argentinian artists were published in ex-Yugoslavia. And they were doing those small, like Brescia, Alberto Brescia, Castillo, and many of Argentinian artists and Spanish artists, Italian artists, they were published in small booklets in ex-Yugoslavia, and like a kid I just loved it, and I tried to draw myself. Everybody was telling me that I'm a good artist, but I realized after seeing work of, for instance, Joe Kubert, I was visiting him at his studio, and he was doing 6 pages a day in pencil and ink, and it was taking me 4 or 5 days to do a page, so I realized I'm not really good. And I didn't like my work, so since I was somehow networking and meeting those parties and becoming friendly with them, I decided to become an editor instead of an artist.
Editar obras de los autores a los que él representa. ¿Cómo engancha una cosa con la otra? ¿No? Tendría que ser la pregunta. Y si busca distintas cosas de lo que es para editar él o para representar.
Yeah, I first want to explain why I'm doing the agent work. When I was 18, I started a magazine, a comics magazine called Street Art. in 1971 in ex-Yugoslavia. The magazine was very successful, and it's kind of, you know, cult magazine. They call it cult magazine now. And I was working with agents and agencies, and I was very young. I was 18, but I realized that all these agents and agencies do poor work. Well, I was too young and inexperienced, but I see that they were doing poor work for the artists, because their primary target was to bring the money to the agency. They didn't care about the artists. I'll just give one example. They come to me and they offer me a comic that I want. And I tell them, okay, I want to buy this comic for my magazine, what is the price? So they give me a price which I consider big. And I tell them, well listen, we sell 25,000 copies of the magazine, we cannot afford to pay $200 per page. Then they tell me, well, if you buy 3 more comics, then we can give you these 3 titles, which I don't like. They say, we can give you the rights for $50 a page. Then I realized they are destroying the artist whom I want. They are using his price because they want to sell the other artists I don't want. So this is just one example, but there were hundreds of examples where I realized that really those agents and agencies are just, you know, that's just administrators, just administration people who try to get as much money as possible, not thinking about quality or anything else.
O autores nuevos cuyas obras vos puedas ofrecerle a las editoriales de distintos países con los que ya estás trabajando.
You know, when I made trips, first of all, I was attending a lot of festivals since I was 18. I was going to Lucca in Italy in 1971 was my first Lucca, then I was in San Diego in 1976 regularly. I was one of the organizers of Angoulême in France, from Angoulême 1, etc., etc. Whenever I go to the festivals, I'm not looking for anything, you know. I just want to see what people do. And then all of a sudden there is something that I think can be a big potential. Then I want to talk to the artist. Because if you go and look for something particular, what most of the editors or agents do, you will never find it. You might think that's the right thing, you know, but there are a lot of, you have to realize that there are more artists now, 10,000 times more artists now than they were when I started in 1971. So there is such an overproduction of work that you cannot find anything that is going to become a fast success. Because past successes were a long time ago, when the comics printed on paper were selling in hundreds of thousands of copies. You know, when they were selling 400,000 copies, the magazines, etc., etc. Then we had successes. Now it's very difficult to have something on printed on paper that becomes a big success. But you find, I'll give you an example just to illustrate this after you translate this, what I said. I'll give you an example about an artist, Argentinian artist I'm working with now, that I'm very happy with, and I find him to be a very, very big potential. It's Mauro Strafini, or Bruno, and his School for Monsters. I'll tell you later on, after Andrés translates this. Well, when I saw School for Monsters, I was very much enthusiastic, but I realized that we will not be able to sell. It's really great work. He's very intelligent. Bruno is very, very intelligent. I saw him yesterday in Buenos Aires, by the way, because tomorrow he's flying to Spain. And I see much more potential in this than in many cartoony comics which were produced and very successful years ago. However, I realized that we cannot sell many copies in any of the languages before we get it on the screen. Because nowadays, for instance, if you go to a publisher, like a big publisher like Planeta de Agostini in Spain, I'm very friendly with all of them there, they will not buy a children's book or a children's comic from you if it's not on television or in the movies. They want a success of Ben 10 or some of these characters, you know, and if you bring them an excellent comic, they will not publish it because it's not supported by the other media. So, and then I brought it to Hollywood because I've got very good connections in Hollywood. And I got everybody in Hollywood excited about it. Disney wants it. Disney wanted it, not wants it. Disney wanted it, but at the same time, my friend Ben Haber, who produced the Smurfs movie, common city Smurfs, Lapitofos, yeah. They produced Smurfs movie, which was a big success. Ben Haber told me, no, I want to do this movie. And I prefer Ben on Disney because Ben is working for Columbia, and if we do it with Columbia, we can keep the merchandising. If we sell it to Disney, Disney keeps merchandising, we can't do anything about it. So I agreed. So I agreed with Ben Haber to do that we will start the development of the movie, but he told me there is a little danger. There was a similar movie, similar subject, called Hotel Transylvania, animated movie, which was in development with Fox. He said, it seems that this movie is dead in the water, nothing will happen, because for 5 years they were talking about it. So we'll just wait 1 year, and if we are sure that Hotel Transylvania will not be made, then we will do School for Monsters for sure. And he's the man of his word. Unfortunately, about 4 or 5 months ago, Ben called me and said, I'm sorry to tell you, but they are producing Hotel Transylvania. And because of the process of the movie, of development and production is very long, a couple of years, then we would come probably 2 years after Hotel Transylvania, and there is no studio in Hollywood who wants to compete with a similar project at the other studio. So Hotel Transylvania will probably come out before the end of this year. Who is giving up? I never gave up on anything, you know. So I told Bruno yesterday that we will now try to set it up as a television series, because we have no chance to come out with a movie in the next 10 years from now, you know, because there are 2 things in Hollywood. For instance, if Hotel Transylvania is a big success, then nobody wants anything similar to compete with that success. There you'll have the merchandising and the sequels and everything. On the other hand, if it's a big flop, then nobody wants to make a similar movie as the big flop was. Therefore, we are going to try the television series, and I believe we will succeed, because as I'm concerned, Hollywood is just a side track. My mainstream is publishing and agency work, but I want to explain to you when I said about the problems of printed on paper. And since I'm talking about, since Andrés told you that it's published in Israel and also in Arabic languages, I want to give you an example about the Israeli edition. Bruno, of course, he wants to see School for Monsters published in many languages, and I'm sure we will have it in at least 20 languages by the end of the next year. But we sold Israeli edition about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. And it wasn't coming out, and Bruno was asking me when it will come out. I tell him, don't worry, they paid for it, they will do it. And the Israeli publisher came to my stand, to my company's stand in Bologna, at the Piera Bologna, and I asked her, she's a lady, and I asked her, I said, Sigal, why you still didn't publish the book? And she said, you know, Ervin, we have to print maximum 2,000 copies. We cannot sell more. Well, also in Argentina, most of the books are published in 2,000 copies. Now, those books to be sold in the shops must be hardcover books. And whatever printing price she gets for hardcover, she loses money in Israel. So she said, I have to print it in China, but in order to print it in China and to get a price where I will not lose money, I have to have 12 books printed at the same time, because of the printing cost and because of the shipping, to save on the shipping. So it finally came out 3-4 months ago. It was late about a year, and Bruno was jumping of joy. The book looks really well. I think you can see the book here. It's displayed somewhere, the Israeli edition. I just wanted to explain to you that the publishers, they are not really eager to get something new published, because they are going to lose money if they are not careful about the money they are spending. And also, it's not in our interest to push the publisher to publish something very fast if they have the ways to save money, because now every cent counts.
Estas son algunas de las historias de editores con los que trabajan y que van conformando la realidad del mercado donde los autores se tratan de insertar. Y tengo una pregunta más y después ya quería completar.
I just want to explain, because most of you are very young and you probably don't know how the publishing of comics developed in the past, and practically why we have this crisis now, because there is a very simple explanation for this. In 1970s, which they used to call the golden age of comics, there were a lot of magazines in Europe publishing comics. You had Pilot and Spirou and Tintin in France. You had, in Italy at that time, there were 36 magazines who were publishing comics, monthly or weekly. And now in Italy there are just 2 magazines publishing comics. Another 8 pages next month. And then somebody, if he was interested in reading Blueberry, I will not talk about Jeremiah because it's mine, but let's say Blueberry, he would buy the magazine every month to read the story and to finalize story, very eager to see the artwork, very eager to see how it continues. And then it was unwritten law that they will publish the album with the same story 2 years after the publication in the magazine. However, it was clear to all the publishers that they make a lot more money on albums than on magazines, because the cover price of the magazine is very low, because it's a magazine sold in the kiosks, and the albums are very expensive. So if they sell enough copies of the albums, they're going to make money. So they started more money. So they started to shorten the period after the publication in the magazine. So they started to publish albums 1 year after publication, then 6 months after publication, then 3 months after publication, and then came the time when album was published, because before the comics was published in the magazine. This way they destroy their own markets, because if you buy a magazine, there are not all the titles that you like in it. You maybe like 3 titles out of 10 or 12. So all you do is you buy these 3 albums and you don't buy the magazine anymore. So the sales of the magazine were going down until they just killed them.
Muy claro. Claro, pero dicho así como fuerte. Sí, uno lo procesó durante años, pero dicho así todo junto. Bueno, y la pregunta que final, por lo menos mía, después vemos qué quiere preguntar la gente, si hay tiempo, creo que hay tiempo, ¿no? Estamos bien con el tiempo. Es ¿cómo contactarte a vos? O sea, ¿qué te tiene que presentar a vos? ¿Un artista? ¿Con qué? Ah, no, yo para él, para que él sepa qué preguntarte. ¿Qué tiene que presentarte a vos un artista? ¿Cómo te lo tiene que presentar para que vos digas, me interesa trabajar con vos, no me interesa trabajar con vos? ¿Cómo es, digamos, desde lo formal? ¿Cómo es la presentación del material para que vos decidas si querés representar a este artista?
Okay. It's very, there is no recipe. There is no recipe because everything, it's very complex, it's all in my head. I'm traveling a lot. I'm going to all the book fairs. I'm meeting a lot of publishers. We now work with more than 500 publishers all over the world. We sold, for instance, comics to a publisher in Tamil language in India. In Tamil language in India. In India, there is Tamil language in south of India. So we sell comics in Tamil language, we sell comics in Malaysia, we sell comics everywhere. And I know the needs of all the publishers. I know what they like, I know them all personally. So when I'm seeing a comic, immediately I know in my head who could be interested in it. Now, if it is a very small publisher, somewhere in Indonesia, for instance, we work in Indonesia a lot, then I tell the artist, I know a publisher who can buy it, but they cannot pay very much. So if you want to start for there, we will just take it and start there. And if he's interested, then we can talk about it. But if I see potential, like I saw here with Bruno, I'm sure we can sell it, we can spread it in many countries. So it's just a feeling, it's not the recipe, it's not that I describe you we can do this, you know, we need it.
Te entiendo perfecto, pero no es lo que yo te pregunté. Ahora vamos a traducirte para que vos decidas si lo vas a representar o no. Sea el caso de Bruno, sea el caso de Germán, sea el caso de Sergio Obrera, sea el caso de gente que no conocemos y que un día viene a mostrarte tu material y vos decís, esto me interesa. ¿Qué te tiene que mostrar de una carpeta, un libro ya publicado, un proyecto, un boceto, un guión?
Okay, it's a very good question. It's very important for you to know how to present it to the publishers. Yeah, it's very important because most of the artists do things in a wrong way. I don't blame them. It's not that they are not intelligent. They just don't know. First of all, if you go to the festivals, if you go to some book fairs, do never bring material with you to show them. I'll give you an example. We have our stand, our booth at the Frankfurt Book Fair for 36, 37 years now. I have between 14 and 16 meetings at the book fair with the publishers every day. And then the artists come and they bring their work. I can never have the time to devote to them, because I have another publisher who is very important for me waiting, to tell them about their work. I just flip through it very quickly, and I just cannot do more than that. What you have to do is, when you go to a festival, and you know who are the publishers who are coming there, you have to contact the publisher before the festival, to tell him you know he's coming, and to send him the material in advance, to give him the time to look at it. Because at the festivals, you know, we get, in my office, we get 70 submissions every week. Submissions from artists from all over the world, you know. And it's an impossible amount of work. And then when I come to the book fair, I get about 200 CDs with offers from the artist. Now imagine, in addition to your everyday's work, you just have to open those 200 CDs. It's impossible, because the pile of work is so big that you just cannot do it. Therefore, CD is nice thing, web is nice thing, but if you are meeting a publisher, bring him printed stuff, bring him photocopies, bring him printed material. It's always easier to look at it than to open it. Because most of the publishers are not going to print your CDs. They will tell you, okay, I'll let you know, but they will leave it in the hotel room. Because when you pack up your luggage to leave the festival, to leave the place where the festival was, you cannot just have those 200 CDs in a suitcase, you know, you don't have space for it. You don't have, when you come to the festival, just to be perfectly clear, then it's the best that you bring it printed on paper. However, you can contact, when you contact the publisher before going to see him, it's quite alright that you send him an email with your material, but you have to keep something very important in your mind. All of the publishers, all my life I was working 14 to 16 hours a day, and I had to slow down now because I had a heart operation two years ago. You just cannot cope with all that stuff. Artists send 100 pages of comics. Now imagine, if you make a PDF of 100 pages, it's very heavy file. And there is no publisher who is going to go through all 100 pages, and there is no publisher who is going to read it. So what you have to send is maximum 6 pages. They don't have to be one after the other. You can randomly choose, just for presentation, different 6 pages, and a very short synopsis. Don't send. I used to receive synopses of 8 pages, typed pages. You know, I speak a couple of languages, and I've got translators for all the languages where we work. But it's so heavy, I have no time for it, you know. So it must be half the page maximum. You just have to work very carefully to try to say in so many words the best you can explain the story. You can be sure that if a publisher is interested in your work, 6 pages is quite enough for him to get back to you and to ask you for more material. So please, for your own sake, don't send much, because nobody, I know a lot of publishers in the world who are very busy with administration works, with the cost cutting, with the problems in the warehouse. We had a problem where our truck with books in France was stolen in France, you know, and the book was late for Christmas, etc. You have, you know, so many things to do and to worry. And if I see 6 pages and if I like synopsis, then of course I or some of my assistants are going to contact the artist and to ask more material in that case.